So we all have been thinking about exercising, and we have a lot of questions in our mind, and a lot of patient people have tried exercising in the past and have failed. So this video is for those who have been in the pre-contemplation phase and contemplation phase about like how to exercise and what do we do, where to start. I'm Dr. Grady, and I'm board certified in family medicine, lifestyle, as well as obesity. And I have James Brunner here. He is he is a certified exercise physiologist, and he works in our multidisciplinary team. We work as a team to help people lose weight and feel great. And James, if you can introduce yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Hi, I am James. So to kind of give you guys some background, I am an exercise physiologist, like Dr. Sunkareddy said. I have a master's degree in kinesiology from Georgia College here in Georgia. And I'm also a certified strength and conditioning specialist. So I've had a ton of experience working with obesity patients here in the medical side, but of my main backgrounds in strength and conditioning, working with Division I athletes, professional athletes, things like that. So I've worked with a array of different spectrums of exercise.
And I always tell in our team, James' job is the toughest job as an exercise physiologist because he has to meet the patients where they are. Because we get like a whole array of patients. So James' job is the toughest job in the entire team of our bariatrics. So, James, you told about your credentials. Would you mind telling us what's the difference between a personal trainer as well as an exercise physiologist?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people kind of get confused when they would come into my office. They would think, oh, yeah, you're the personal trainer. Well, hold on. So the difference ideally is a bunch of different things. Number one, the group of people. So with personal training, those are for people who want to work out at home or go to someone's house and work out, or at a commercial gym like a Bodyplex, LA Fitness, Lifetime Fitness, things like that, where you can work one on one with a trainer or in a group setting. So it's just more of daily activities and things like that. Versus an exercise physiologist, kind of more on the medical side of things. We have the research, we do more research based components and backgrounds and things like that. Our philosophy is more science and research based. And we kind of go off of the ACSM recommendations, which is what we call our little handbook that we go by with a lot of different things. And so one's just, I would say, is to sum it all up. One's just more medical, and one's just more recreationally. Both tend to be more educated with degrees and certifications, but they just both have variations depending on their population needs.
That's awesome. And uh, and I mean, this video is mainly for the people who have been thinking about exercise. And so what advice would you give like to the people who are just starting to exercise or thinking about it?
Yes, that's a great question. So, a lot of times when I had patients come into my office, they're so overwhelmed with exercising, they don't even know where to start. It's like, hey, I see this person on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever platform it may be, and they're like, wow, how do I get to that point? Or how can I start exercising? There's so many different avenues, and so usually what I would tell patients is just start easy. You don't want to jump into like if you've never exercised a day in your life, please don't go join like a CrossFit class or an Orange Theory class or anything like those high intensity type exercise environments. They'll wear you out, they'll kick your butt, and they'll probably make you not want to do exercising at
Right.
all.
Yeah, that's true.
So when I would have patients come in and say, I've never exercised a day in my life, I don't know where to even begin, I usually would say, hey, let's just go for a walk. Start off walking 5 days a week, 3 to 5 days a week for 30 minutes, and just start off with that. So, and I'd also say too, the activity doesn't matter at the very beginning. It's more about getting you in the habit, in the routine of of a consistent exercise regimen, 15, 30 minutes of something where you're getting that heart rate elevated. So usually start off with that. And then over time, I would typically introduce new things to patients. So start off at cardio because everyone knows how to walk, everyone knows how to run or jog. And then eventually we'll kind of dive into more resistance training, strength training, how to start to implement that into a daily regimen.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. And James, talking about the strength training exercises,
Mhm.
I used to always think that, like, I mean, okay, I'm going to do strength training one day and I'm going to do cardio the other day. And a lot of people whom I met, they always think in that way. But you have always told patients to do strength training before cardio, I mean,
Mhm.
after cardio, I mean, before cardio.
Mhm.
What's the science behind that?
Yeah. So when you kind of mentioned at first about doing one day of cardio, one day strength training,
Mhm.
that's totally okay because those are two separate days
Right.
and everything. But if you're wanting to do strength training and cardio on the same day, you want to do strength training first. A very common thing that I see in at work and just everyday life and with patients, a lot of people do their cardio first and then they do their strength training last. I don't know where along the way we've said, "Oh, that's okay, that's normal," but it's not. Anytime you exercise, you want to be as efficient as possible. So, like you said, the science behind it. Um, so when we're exercising, the most important thing you want to do is do the most taxing thing first. Okay. What I mean by that is from the central nervous system that goes through our brain that sends off the little neurons to our muscles to activate, you want to do the most taxing thing first. Neurologically, cardio is not the most taxing thing. It's actually resistance training. Or we also say plyometrics. So to sum up plyometrics, it's just one explosive movement over a few times. So an example would be hitting a golf ball. One explosive movement at a time versus more of a repetitive movement like running or jogging and things like that. So typically when I would, and we used to do this with our athletes. So when I worked as a strength coach at Georgia College, the first thing we would do is do a warm up. Make sure that's always the most important thing. Always warm up before you exercise. And
Right.
then next we would do some plyometrics. So we used to use medicine ball, so medicine ball slams. That's an activity we used, or jumping up on top of a box, forwards or side to side. Another example we all are familiar with are sprints. If anyone's ever done any sports in their life, they've probably at some point done sprints for their conditioning. So that is considered an explosive movement plyometrics. Then you want to, so that's the most taxing thing neurologically because has a lot of, it needs a lot of power. You need a lot of power to make those movements in a short amount of time. Then you would perform your normal strength training, heavier weights. We're engaging more muscle groups. So like bench press or squatting with a
Mhm.
barbell. That's going to be the most taxing from a strength training perspective. And then as your program goes on, you get to the smaller muscles. Then maybe at the end, you actually end up doing some bicep curls or tricep extension, things like that. Then once you're done with all your strength training, then you would perform your cardio activities. Now you don't want to do high intense cardio like running or sprinting. You want to do something where you're working between 60 to 75% of your heart rate max,
Got it.
which is age specific to everybody. So that's why you should do cardio last because it's the least taxing thing on your body.
That's very interesting. I didn't know about this for sure. So, and tell us a little bit about this hit. Hit has been like, I mean, recently it has been like something cool, and a lot of people want to do hit. So, tell us a little bit about this hit exercises and how intense they are.
Yes, so it's very popular. It's sometimes misconstrued. So I think sometimes people get a little misinterpretation of what HIIT training is. There's a lot of people that say, hey, this so and so person on
Right.
Instagram said HIIT is the best way to lose
Mhm.
fat and gain muscle and lose fat. Well, I can make the argument with a lot of different things of how to get those same results. It's just a very popular term that a lot of trainers like to use in this day and age,
Mhm.
to kind of get more people to do it. So HIT stands for high intensity interval training. In short, what that means, it means is you're working at a very high intensity of work. So for me, I am 20. Oh my gosh, how old am I? I'm 29 years old. So my heart rate max is 191. So that's my 100%. So
Mhm.
for HIT training, most of the time you're working at 85% and up of my heart of my 191. So that
Right.
means my heart is pumping really hard. The intensity is high. So in short, you would have a bunch of different circuits. So at one station, you would do jump ropes. So you would do jump ropes for a short amount of time, 30 seconds. So you do jump ropes as hard and as fast as you can for 30 seconds. Then you'd maybe take a 10 to 30-second rest. You hop onto the next station. Maybe you're doing push-ups. I want to do push-ups for 30 seconds and do that as much as I can. And then you just rotate all the way through to, ideally probably 7 to 10 different stations, things like that. So what it is just high intensity, but in a short amount of time.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. And I have one more question, and I'm sure like a lot of people have this question in their mind. When I work out, like I don't do like vigorous intensity workout. Like I do moderate intensity, maybe run or jog for whenever I get a chance and do some strength training. But when I work out, I feel a lot more. I mean, I feel hungry a lot more. Like I want to eat more and
Mhm.
so how do you balance that? Because my whole the I feel that like I've burned those calories, but I'm putting them back. So
Yeah.
how do we balance that?
Yes, that's a great question. So I can't tell you how many conversations I've had in my several years of doing this where people would say, well, what's the point of eating all this extra food?
Right.
If I thought the point was to lose the weight, not add pack on the calories. I laugh every time because it even doesn't make sense to me, when you in layman's terms. But there is truth. There is actual research and science to prove, why do we need these extra calories?
Mm-hmm.
So when I would talk to patients, I gave them kind of clean numbers. So the average person, calories that you need to consume per day is you've always heard 2,000 calories, a
Mm-hmm.
2,000 calorie diet. In simplistic terms, I just say, hey, if you want to lose weight, you want to minus 500 from that number. So that'll put you down at 1,500 calories per day. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, what if I want to gain weight? Well, then you would just add 500 calories to that, 2,000. So then you're at 2,500. So, depending on what your goals are. So if your goal is to lose weight, we're going to be down at 1,500. Makes sense. But if you throw exercise into that, so, let's just say we burn in our workouts, we burned realistically probably about 200 calories.
Right.
Right. So that number what gets lower. So now you're down to 1,300 calories because it takes that away. So
Right.
you're going to have to eat more calories to get it back up to a safe level from a
Right.
caloric perspective. Now, another part that a lot of people I don't think understand a whole lot, but you need to eat more for a recovery perspective. So
Yeah.
when you work out, whether it's cardio based or strength training based,
Mm-hmm.
you're tearing down your body from a central nervous system perspective, as well as your muscles, organs, things like that. I can get into all the fancy science behind it, but let's keep things simple and easy. So you're
Right.
tearing down your body. So when you tear down your body, what they always say, you got to build it back up. So the way you do that is with food. So protein, carbohydrates, fats, those are your recovery tools for working out. So I always tell patients if you perform resistance training and even cardio too, you definitely need to have protein and carbohydrate consumption within 30 minutes to 3 hours post workout.
Got it.
That is when your body is most susceptible to breaking down those proteins and carbohydrates more effectively.
Okay.
Um, so it is very important that you have those things consumed post workout, and
Mhm.
that will help you prepare your body for the next day.
Mhm.
I wish I had an analogy that I used to use for my patients, but I used kind of a straight line. And so when you're working out, you're feeling good, you're up above this straight line, but then when you work out, you go below the line. The line represents homeostasis, like you're normal. That's your good line. And then if you're above it, that's where we always want to be. But
Okay.
sometimes when we work out, we go below that line, which is
Okay.
totally normal. It's a natural response. But when we start to recover from foods, we start to sleep good at night. We're hydrating. We're doing all the good stuff. Guess what? You're going to go above. You're going to go above that line. If you don't take care of your body from a stress perspective, nutrition, um, or even sleep, you're going to be below that line, and that's where I start to see a lot of injuries, neurological damage, injuries, sickness, things like that. But it is very normal for you to feel hungry afterwards because your body is needing those carbs and proteins to help recover from the workout itself.